Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Demas, the executive editor here at Lincoln Square. And joining me as always on Tuesday morning is Edwin Eisendrath. He hosts the It's the Democracy Stupid show right here in Lincoln Square at 1 o'clock Eastern on Fridays. You can also hear him on the weekends in Chicago on Heartland Signal. He's got a radio show there, and his Substack is also called It's the Democracy Stupid. Welcome, Edwin.
I'm happy to be here. And I just, before we get into the news, I just want to say I've been paying some attention to the growth of what you've done at Lincoln Square, and it's amazing. It's really amazing and important given the nonsense that we see from corporate media like CBS now.
Well, thank you. And, we couldn't grow, first of all, without all of you, because you're the ones who are tuning in and reading us, and you are part of our community. And we've just been so lucky to develop relationships with people like you, Edwin, because, we're all in this fight together. And
all in it.
It makes such a difference for us to link up at this time. And so it's just been such a pleasure for me to be part of this for the last 6 months and to get to know so many people who are doing the important work of fighting back, and to see all of you show up on Saturday. I mean, 7 million people at 2,700 events across the country, small towns, big cities like Chicago and LA and Detroit. Just amazing, Edwin. And I want to start with Chicago. And you wrote about the fight in Chicago. We've got your piece up today on Lincoln Square. Chicago has been ground zero for Trump's latest attacks, dispatching ICE and troops to try and quell the city. So talk to us about how that contrasts with the giant No Kings protest that you had over the weekend.
Yeah, well, I want to start with the government of the United States said the No Kings protesters are Hamas-loving, Antifa, America haters. And that would be funny, except Donald Trump said Antifa is a domestic terrorist organization and people who are part of it are subject to prosecution, right? So everyone who showed up, every one of those 7 million people was doing it despite the president of the United States saying, you are at risk for being arrested as a terrorist.
Come and get us, Donald. Come and get us.
Come and get us, right? And so even though Chicago has been has suffered freely from aggressive, provocative, policing that we don't allow our police forces to do, dangerous, trying to create a reaction. They were nowhere to be seen during these rallies. Nowhere to be. Like they went out to the parking lot of O'Hare as far away as they could to do their mischief that day.
And that O'Hare is very far from where your protest was.
Yeah, well, there were several in the city, but the big one, right? So they these protests have real meaning, and I have students that I teach who say, well, what good did it do that we showed up? And it did a lot of. I mean, for one, as G. Elliott Morris pointed out, and I think he's been on here. Look, just compare the last time there was a CR before Congress, and the Democratic leadership went along with the Republicans, and it caused all kinds of trouble. This time, in part because of the size of the protest movement, they didn't. So, look, you actually created a governing difference by giving the people in office some spine to have this fight. But it also, it was, again, a beautiful sight here. And it was people like, the Communist Party is not my party, but they were right there banging their drums. There were lots of people I didn't agree with, and a lot of people I did agree with, and a lot of people just celebrating the fact that we're all in this country together, and we have to figure out a way to move forward together. And the idea of a president who doesn't. I saw a sign from a rally in rural Massachusetts, somewhere west of Amherst, that said, "We stand with Chicago." I love that, because what's happening in this city is inspiring for everybody, because, the untrained overarmed thugs are here. The nice judge has said, no, and stop violating my decrees. Of course, the Supreme Court's been asked to say, oh, we're the danger and they should send their military in. Really, that would be beyond disastrous for everybody, because this is not a city that's going to roll over. It's just not going to happen, so let's work together and not have this problem.
And the protests were peaceful.
No arrests. 250,000 people were in Chicago's protests. Not one arrest. Not one.
Not one arrest in New York City either. And we had several of our Lincoln Square staff and Lincoln Project staff there. It was an incredible sight. 100,000 people, 250,000 in Washington, D.C. Just amazing protests. And they were peaceful. They were fun. I happened to be in Santa Monica, which is the hometown of Stephen Miller, and not popular there. Plenty of signs about him and the fool that he is. There were, people dancing the streets. People were bringing their families, lots of dogs with signs on them. It was great. You got to know people. I was not from there. My daughter and I happened to be there on vacation. But afterwards we walked away with new friends, because you got to talk with people and get to know them, which is so important. And I think that Trump was not expecting this kind of turnout. I was frankly expecting that he would set, his ICE thugs on, to try and create trouble. I think they really believed their own bullshit that not a lot of people would show up, and they didn't create trouble. And once they saw so many people were there, they really were caught flat-footed. And so what did Trump do? He did another AI video. This time he was dropping shit all over his fellow Americans, which is a great metaphor for what his presidency has been. But that's a pretty lame response, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and he demolished the East Wing of the White House while we were all out partying.
Which is just such a tragedy. There's no Rose Garden anymore. He's building this $250 million ballroom while he can't pay federal workers during the government shutdown, is laying them off. Congress is taking a vacation because Mike Johnson and Republicans don't want to work. That old phrase, nobody wants to work anymore. It starts with Republicans in Congress.
They've worked about a day and a quarter a week for the last 10 weeks, if you sort of average it out. It's disgraceful. But back to the protests for 1 second. I'm so interested. Stephen Miller's home, the focus was on Stephen Miller. Here in Chicago, the focus was on ICE and what's happening here. So I just think it's interesting that people everywhere are talking about the things that matter to them, the things that are relevant and in their neighborhoods, in their lives. And the bottom line message here is the one that is always the message in America. My government has to work for me. My government should pay attention to what we need. There were signs about healthcare. There were definitely signs about ICE. There were signs about the wealth gap in America, for sure. But most people were just like, my government isn't paying attention to me. My government isn't paying attention to the things that matter in my life every single day. Instead, as you said before, they're building a 400,000 square foot ballroom, whatever it is, a gold gilded ballroom in the White House,
Right. We really are at a Louis the 16th moment. It's a let them eat cake moment, because meanwhile, the economy is being trashed. Inflation is up, but he's building this ballroom so that he and billionaires can party at our expense.
Yeah, so the Democratic Party has to reclaim its brand, which Republicans have spent hundreds of billions of dollars in 10 years trying to destroy. And the way to rebuild it is, of course, to really focus on the lives of Americans. It isn't actually that complicated. It's what you see if you just open your eyes and talk to people everywhere in the country. We need to make people's lives better,
right?
And not And Washington is, so many lobbyists, so many interests. It's happening in states for sure, where Democrats are in control. It's harder to do in Washington because of Citizens United and other mischief caused by the Supreme Court and the Republican cabal. But it can be done, and we just have to not let the people who go there forget why they're there. Not him.
There's been this huge campaign by Trump and Republicans to portray those of us who showed up at the No Kings protests were radicals, we're Antifa, we're not real Americans. But, consider the big story before the No Kings protest with that young Republican group chat, the article in Politico that just exploded. And their private group chats were just full of the most disgusting comments about sending their enemies to the gas chambers, rape jokes, anti-Semitism, just incredibly gross rhetoric. And this is what they do behind closed doors. This is what they find to be funny. And then, another nominee of Trump, his all of his messages were linked as well. And you have JD Vance defending it. JD Vance, who stood up there when Charlie Kirk was murdered, and that was a tragedy, and said it's the leftist rhetoric that contributed to this. But all of a sudden, when you see that violent rhetoric from the right, that's all okay. It's fine. For my friends, everything. For my enemies, the law. It's the mob mentality. But those are the radicals. The radicals are running the government. We are Americans. All we want is our democracy back and a fair society where you can have a fair shake, where getting healthcare doesn't bankrupt you.
I completely agree with that. I add one more thing that Americans want, just some common decency.
Yes.
I mean, Americans, the right said, oh, they're censoring speech. They're trying to be politically correct. I'm sorry. We're just trying not to be stupid, rude thugs who say hurtful things all the time because they think it makes it fun. And hello, I've spent many years as an adult man. I know something about being a man. And it is, you know what? If your instinct is to say something stupid and hurtful, rise up and don't do it. Have some courage, have some self-discipline. But they say these things, Susan, they excuse the vilest crap. I mean, this is who they are. They hate Americans. They hate, God knows. I just can't imagine what a black Republican is, given the hate there is in. It's like saying a Jewish Nazi. These guys hate. They hate.
That's Stephen Miller.
Right. Yes, I guess that's right. That's exactly right. So this isn't America. They aren't. This is. I know we've had a long streak of cruelty in our country, but we've also had a stronger streak of rising above.
Right.
And of the personal courage to rise above. And you know what? They don't have it. They're undisciplined, terrible people.
It was such a line in the sand that was crossed in 2016, right before the election, when the Access Hollywood tape was leaked of Donald Trump bragging about grabbing women by the pussy and saying that he could just sexually assault women. And it was okay because he was rich, he was famous. And the message that we got because he won the election was Americans are okay with this and we can cross those lines. And, I think of this as a parent, and I don't care if this makes me sound conservative. I don't want my children talking that way. I don't think that this is the way we should be talking about other people. There is nothing wrong with having a base level of respect.
Yeah, Tipper Gore said that.
Right. And certainly for the leader of the free world, it should not be acceptable that he can say those things, that he can drop, shit all over his fellow Americans in his videos that he has generated. This is not what America is about. America was about us pulling together to fight against tyranny. That's what we fought a war for. It wasn't so that we could shitpost against each other and we could tear each other down. And, we've lost a lot when we accept things like that.
Absolutely right. And it also wasn't so that the federal government could put their troops in, let's see, Portland, Memphis, DC, Los Angeles, Chicago, and now apparently coming to San Francisco as well, that this is where we should be stationing and while no Kings was on, shooting live ammunition over I-5. And thank God the governor said, well, if they're going to do that, we got to get the people up, because despite J.D. Vance, again, dumb ass, saying that it wouldn't be a problem, the shells landed on I-5.
Right. And
so,
on a police vehicle, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so you don't shoot live ammunition over an American expressway and put troops in our cities like this. This is absolutely unacceptable. And I'm hoping that the rest of the country will see the courage of those of us in all of these cities who are standing up to these thugs and saying, this is not what American freedom is. Not happening.
It's striking that Trump is dispatching troops into American cities where he is labeling fellow Americans as his enemies. Meanwhile, when you have the Ukrainians that are fighting for freedom against Putin invaded their country over 3 years ago. Over the weekend, he berated Zelensky again and demanded, you need to cede land to Russia. That's the only way this is going to go. Meanwhile, on the ground, the situation is quite different because of their innovative drone warfare. And we had Ken Harbaugh, who's a retired Navy pilot. He was on Lincoln Square a couple times last week. He was there on the front lines reporting. It was just incredible. If you haven't seen it, please go back. He was on Strategy Session. He was on with Stuart Stevens, who was also in Ukraine. I mean, the Ukrainians are fighting for freedom. This is a global war for freedom against autocracy. And Donald Trump is on the wrong side of that.
Yes, and yes. And look, what Donald Trump is also learning in his absolutely, like, I'm going to be with Ukraine. Wait, there's Vlad on the phone. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. Oh, no, wait, I am going to be with Ukraine. Wait, oh, hi, Vlad. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. Right? This has now happened a bunch of times.
Right.
He's learning that, you know what, he isn't so all powerful, because Europe has said, okay, you were right. We should spend more money on arms. And the reason we're spending more money on arms is because we're going our own way. This is no longer America's century. America no longer is going to be as prominent in the world. In fact, you're mischievous. You're a mischievous power now. We're going to have to defend ourselves. And they and Ukraine are beginning to step up together with Ukraine in ways. And Russia is not able to win this war. Right. They're also not able to stop. And we could stop them. No question. Give them the Tomahawk missiles.
They're in an incredibly weak position, especially economically. Winter is there. Winter is coming for those of us in the Midwest sooner than we'd like.
Yeah.
But in Russia, it's already there. Heating prices have gone through the roof. People don't have their basic necessities. Putin needs this war to stay in power because he is a weak despot.
Yes. And the United States doesn't, I'm not saying, we should get involved in regime change in Russia or anything like that, but we should protect Ukraine.
Right.
And if you know what, the regime falls because of that, I don't know, we might get another 250,000 people in the streets cheering, right? I mean, America's not on Putin's side, just Trump is.
Right. And, the war with Ukraine, it does not stop there. You have seen that Polish airspace has been invaded by Russia. He is actively looking at the Baltics. Finland is now part of NATO because they historically know from World War II what Russia is capable of. This war does not end with Ukraine, and I think that our leaders in Europe understand that.
They do understand that, and every serious defense analyst in America understands it and has watched Russia act nefariously with countries, from bombing a shopping center, right, to undermining telecommunications and rail communications. They are engaged in a kind of a Cold War, but an aggressive one with Europe and with us, interfering in our elections on Donald Trump's behalf, by the way. And our president's on the wrong side.
Right.
He's just on the wrong side.
I mean, we've seen the absolute inhumanity of Putin, where he has kidnapped Ukrainian children and brought them into Russia, ripped them away from their families, bombing civilian apartment buildings and hospitals. And you see that inhumanity at play here in the US because of Donald Trump, where they're zip tying children. They are arresting American citizens right there in Chicago. They evacuated an entire apartment building full of people, and
they didn't evacuate; they detained. They put down, zip tied, and detained in the middle of the night from Black Hawk helicopters, zip tying children, pulling them away from their parents, taking people outside with no clothes on, and making them sit there, and pulling away American citizens and immigrants alike.
Right.
Just ridiculous, terrible, cruel, inhumane, and un-American behavior.
Absolutely. And we can see a through line with what Putin is doing and what Trump is willing to do to his own people. These are people who want to rule by fear. These are people who do not consider themselves to be leaders of an entire country. They want to rule over us. They do not care about freedom, and their tactics are unbelievably cruel. I mean, just that we were talking a week or two ago about the priest who was shot by the projectile. I mean, just absolutely horrible tactics. And that is why we need to get out for the No Kings protest and the next protest and the next protest, because they're doing all of this while they're not even doing their jobs, while the government is shut down.
And while the government is shut down, well, whether it was open or shut, Donald Trump's administration is the most corrupt and lawless, as well as tyrannical, lining their own pockets in ways we have never seen in this country, and paying no attention to law because they have totally weaponized the Justice Department. I had a caller on my radio show last week who was mad at me because he said, well, they went after Trump. I'm like, okay, well, first, did you think that was a good idea? No. Okay, why do you think it's a good idea now? Because they went after Trump. Like, okay, right? No, there's no rule. It's just like you did to me. And then I said, well, how about the facts? Are the facts the same? Because Joe Biden's Justice Department also charged Hunter Biden, and he put him through this. I don't see any of the Trump family ever being charged by this Justice Department. On the contrary, I also see a written list of people to go after. That never happened, where the facts are different. And this guy was calling, he could not hear the difference. He's so blinded by the years of lies and hate that you cannot see the facts anymore. And we have a huge chunk of our country that we're going to have to untrain and help them see the light, but we have to win first.
Right. I mean, you had Trump keeping national secrets in the bathroom of Mar-a-Lago in Florida.
Denying it, hiding it, refusing to cooperate, refusing to give it back. Not the case when they found documents with Mike Pence or Joe Biden. Very different facts.
Right. You had the president trying to instigate a coup with January 6th, 2020.
No precedent at all for that.
Right. I mean, facts do have to matter, and it is sad that for some people it doesn't. But what we have going on in Trump's America now is that you have U.S. citizens who are being arrested for not being citizens. They're completely innocent. You have people who have completely disappeared off the face of the earth from the horrible prison that they call Alligator Alcatraz down in Florida. People are being disappeared in this country. They're being sent to countries abroad that they're not even from. There's no due process. There's no accountability.
And we also know that in one of those countries, to send people to El Salvador, Marco Rubio sold out people who risked their lives and became informants for us, who we promised to protect. And then he said, yeah, forget it. We didn't mean that promise to protect them. We're sending them back because we want to make Bukele happy and use his prison.
Yes. And I feel like we are not paying enough attention to what is going on in South and Central America, because it's very clear that she and Putin and Trump have decided that they are all going to divide up the world into protectorates like back in the days of empire. And you've got Putin gets Europe, she gets Asia, and we get South America and Central America. And we have an undeclared war down there. We have killed people for no reason down in Venezuela. We are now threatening Colombia. And this is getting very little attention, but it is very, very frightening.
It's and Maduro, he's their kind of guy. So that I mean, I'm trying to think of, well, why are they going after Maduro? I mean, he's right up their alley. He's a dictator too. Is it the oil? Is it the oil? Venezuela's got oil. I mean, what?
We have oil.
It's certainly not the drugs. They're not blowing up fishermen really for drugs,
right?
And that's they go up the Pacific more than they come up the Caribbean. That's not what it is.
Right.
And Colombia has been our ally in the fight against cocaine, and the president of Colombia made his career by fighting the cartels, and now President Trump is going after him. I mean, if we lose this fighter in Colombia because we're mad at him, that's going to open the spigot again for drugs here in the U.S. It makes it's certainly not about policy. It's all personal. It's all petty. It's he's the king and somebody's offended him. And I mean, his behavior back and forth with Zelensky, it's not policy anymore. It looks
like a mental breakdown.
Whatever it is, it's bad for us. Really bad for us.
And of course, we can give a giant bailout to Trump's libertarian friend in Argentina. He gets a $20 billion bailout, while meanwhile, our farmers can't sell their soybeans. Nobody can afford health care because the rates have been so jacked up, because Trump has taken a giant hammer to our healthcare system in his budget and in all of his rescissions, and our inflation is off the rails. There's no help for Americans, but we can bail out Argentina because he's buddy-buddy with Trump.
And because members of his cabinet have economic investments that are being protected.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's so corrupt. So it's also, like the federal treasury isn't his pot of gold to do whatever he wants with. Congress passes spending bills, and bailing out Argentina wasn't one of them. But, the president, the prerogatives of Congress don't matter if Congress doesn't want them. And this Congress, Mike Johnson, doesn't want them. He doesn't want to go to work. All he wants to do is keep the Epstein files from seeing the light of day. And that's it. He doesn't care about the rest. But you know what? He's going to care, because he can't pay the Army really out of money that hasn't been sent to the Army. And that's going to get litigated. And he can't do it. And he can't keep the air traffic controllers at work forever without paying them. So the impacts of these closures, the federal government is remote. I mean, all this stuff works through the states, but it's working its way through, and it's painful. And no one believes this is the Democrats' fault, no matter how many times they violate the Hatch Act to use the federal government for their political ends. No one believes it. Not a single American. It's like, the Democrats like government, and Donald Trump's saying we're happy it's shut down. Nobody believes it. So they're going to own this. They're going to get the blame for it. People are signing up now for Medicare and Medicaid, the cycle of renewal, and they're seeing those price hikes. Nobody's going to believe that's the Democrats' fault. That is entirely on the Republicans. Everybody's going to know it. They go to the store, they buy things, they see the price go up, and they're like, I'm sorry, you told us you were fixing this on day one? Yeah, right. No one's going to buy it. So, to the extent that we have free and fair elections, these people are going to get thrown out. Hence, let's gerrymander every county in the country, and let's send the Army to take the ballot boxes in the next election. But we're not going to let them do it, Susan. We're just not going to let them do it. And
No.
every time I ask, and I ask all the time, people say we're not going to have Tiananmen Square in the United States. American troops are simply not going to shoot Americans for trying to vote. And I believe that. And if I didn't believe that, I'd be a lot more scared, because these guys would try it.
Yeah. Well, the longest government shutdown in history took place during Trump's first administration from 2018 to 2019. We are rapidly approaching that milestone. Do you think that we're going to surpass it?
Yes. Absolutely, yes. In part because No Kings has given the Democrats the spine to say the price you're asking for an open government is not a price we're willing to pay.
Right.
Well, I mean, the last time they passed a CR that gave Trump the power to declare emergencies that can't be stopped, right? They gave up Congress's ability to say a day is a day, and you have only a certain number of days that this emergency goes. And they went along with that. Shame on them. This time, in part because everybody shows up and says, don't do it again, they haven't done it. Yes. And that's not radical. These aren't leftists taking over the Democratic Party. These are people saying, we are a minority party with limited options. And one of the options we have is to stop this absurd, terrible, un-American, or illegal, I guess a better way to say, just plain old illegal criminal government from doing more of the things it's doing. Well, okay, that doesn't make us radicals. That makes us Americans.
Right.
And by the way, law-abiding, because they're breaking the law.
Exactly. And nobody broke the law on Saturday. We showed up, we marched, we sang, we talked with our neighbors. There was nothing illegal about it. And just the contrast to what ICE is doing in communities like in Chicago, what they did in LA, it can't be a bigger contrast, because there is nothing American about zip tying and shooting tear gas into crowds of your fellow Americans, into
I'm sure Pam Bondi
who are just trying to come home from school.
I'm sure Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have tasked their staff, instead of focusing on real crime that matters to America, to look at every piece of video of No King's Day, to try and find find a pickpocket in the crowd, whatever they can find, so they can charge somebody with a crime for this great day, because that's who they are, right? Yeah. But they're not going to enforce the law.
People who took law enforcement, from the FBI and put them in a basement to try and find Trump's name in the Epstein files,
which they found a lot. Somebody asked me, like, where is Trump in the Epstein files? And I'm like, I'll tell you where he is. He's up to here in the Epstein files.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there needs to be accountability. There was finally accountability for Prince Andrew in the UK. There needs to be accountability here, starting with Donald Trump.
Right. I mean, right. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, these are not official acts as president. At some point.
No.
I mean, I suppose he could pardon himself for being a pedophile. But you go ahead, Donald. You go ahead. Make my day.
Yeah. Well, I think that, it was a wonderful weekend, and it's something that we all needed, because it's very easy to feel isolated and alone. I know it's great to see all of you in the chat, because this is a way that you can connect with people all across the country, even some folks who, are abroad as well. But there's nothing like seeing people in person, seeing that energy, seeing that, a vision for this country that's positive and that's pro-democracy. And so I'm so glad that everybody was able to get out there over the weekend. We'll be looking for, what our next major actions are going to be. And Edwin, of course, you are keeping tabs on what's going on in Chicago, because that is such a crucial fight for us. And we'll look forward to hearing more on Friday on your show. It's Democracy Stupid.
Thanks.
And so, to all of you, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not become a subscriber to Lincoln Square, you can become a free subscriber. If you're able to support our work and be a paid subscriber, we certainly appreciate that. But most of all, we just appreciate you tuning in and being part of this community that we have here at Lincoln Square. And